All right, we're going live. All right, good evening, everyone. We are live. Welcome to Political Fixer Live. I'm Shauna Presley Vircher, the Political Fixer, and we actually have a pretty action-packed show for you this evening. Believe it or not, it promises to be pretty positive. I know that we wouldn't think that going in, especially with all of the headlines, but I'm telling you, there's a lot of amazing news to report, and we're going to talk about some things that are happening in the news, what you can do to get involved with specific headlines. Then we're going to talk about some positive updates of things you've already done and the difference that you're making out there. And then we're going to go one step further. We have some really fun updates on some projects that we've been teasing for a while, some features that are now available to all of you, just really good stuff all around. And I'm telling you, we have gotten one question asked more than any other question, hands down, which is, what can we do? And we took that question to heart. We have been working furiously on this stuff for the past few months, and I'm really excited to tell you that we're finally able to share and unveil a huge chunk of it with all of you. And I really think that we hopefully hit the mark with what you all are looking for. All right. Let's dive in. To get started for tonight, I want to say hi to everyone, including our Political Fixer family, especially those of you on TikTok who kicked off the Political Fixer live. You all have been so great to support this. And now we simulcast globally on multiple platforms: TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. So if you have a friend and they're not yet on TikTok, that's great. Tell them to go to YouTube at Political Fixer. And not only on the Political Fixer channel can they watch live, but right after the show, within minutes, the entire episode will be there and you can watch it at any time, cut out clips, share it with your friends at any point in time. Hello to so many people that are out there right now. All right. Hey, Lo-Fi Junkie, so good to see you. I want to say a special thank you to our Political Fixer team tonight. We have Jay Robot, who's been taking care of me. I was a little bit under the weather last week, and the State of the Union address did not help. We also have Sarah, of course, our Chief of Staff, who holds everything together, and our mysterious yet stunning producer, Eddie, who makes everything magic as long as we do not show his face on camera. I can only make so many jokes about that, Eddie, or you could possibly be hunted by ICE because you are, after all, a really influential creator and artist. All right. On that note, we're going to be talking about our top political buzz story. Our first segment tonight is the political buzz. We really talked long and hard about what we were going to cover. In fact, Eddie and I were just talking about this story, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and we couldn't stop thinking about it, talking about it, texting about it. So we realized this needed to be our top story for today. This story is getting some traction in the media, for whatever that means. I mean, there's so much going on right now, but this is really important. I want you to make sure that you know about this story, but I also want you to make sure you have context around this story, and that is why we chose it as our lead story for tonight. A New York resident who is a green card holder and former student at Columbia University was detained by ICE. Mahmoud Khalil, who is a Palestinian, had just entered the lobby of his apartment building near the New York campus when agents approached both him and his very pregnant, 8-month pregnant wife, asking for his ID and telling him that he was under arrest, that the State Department had revoked his student visa. All right, we're going to talk about some details to here because details matter. Number one, the officers did not present a physical warrant, though they were asked for it. Number two, I don't know how much you follow immigration law. I'm starting to get a lot more educated on it, especially during these times. But if you don't follow immigration status, there are different types of reasons that people will be in the country here. And one of them is a student visa, and one of them is a green card. Both of them, by the way, are legal, that you are allowed to be here with either one of those. But a green card holder is an even stronger card to hold to show that you are allowed to be here here and live your life in America. So Khalil is not a student visa holder. That is somewhat temporary for most people. He is a green card holder. He, for all intents and purposes, is as legal as he could possibly be at the highest status he could realistically achieve. And that will matter in just a second. Agents threatened and harassed his wife with telling this 8-month pregnant woman that she would be arrested unless she left the scene. Khalil has an attorney. The attorney called, and officers, or whoever, I wouldn't even call them officers. These guys at ICE, they're not even like real cops. Let's just be very clear about this. They're like wannabe cops. Anyway, the attorney, asked for a copy of the arrest, which, surprise, surprise, didn't actually exist, and they just hung up on her. Okay, so at first the attorneys couldn't find him. This caused a lot of distress. People were frantically trying to make sure he was okay. Allegedly, ICE gave one location where he was, and then later on they said that, just kidding, after the wife and everybody traveled to this location, he wasn't there. Okay, let me tell you, this is a very disturbing story. We're going to get to the good silver lining of this in just a second, but let me just tell you a little bit more. Let me let you know that, first of all, the wife is safe. They have located Khalil. His attorney has spoken with him personally, and she says that he is, quote, healthy and his spirits are undaunted by his predicament. Now, before I get to the silver lining and the call to action here, let me explain why I feel like this is a really important story, and we're going to break it down into layers. First and foremost, we cannot just accept and normalize lies. We cannot. I understand that seems ridiculous and that we're exhausted. It is not okay to just say things and do things and make things up and call this kid a criminal when he has committed no crime. All of these things are not okay. Thank you, Danny, and I love your heart there, the Ukrainian blue and yellow heart there. When the campaign was happening, and even today, if you talk to most congressional leaders who are Republican, they will tell you that ICE is only going after people with illegal citizenship status. They will say only those who have committed crimes. We're only going after criminals. Then they moved the bar and they said, oh, well, people that are here illegally. This young man, as far as we know, fits neither of those criteria at all. He is not a criminal. They have not even been able to say what crime he is accused of. He is here legally, and they just took him. They took him and would not tell his wife where he was. So that is an important thing, and we have to sit with that and acknowledge that that is not okay. The second thing is that I understand things are happening quickly, but the rule of law should still matter at some point, or we are in so much trouble. Now, I'm not just talking about what's happening in the White House, what's happening with DOJ. We're going to get to some of that in just a little bit. But this day-to-day, I'm not going to show you a warrant. I'm not going to do anything by the book, all this stuff. It has to be stopped. Now, the good news is a federal judge did step in. I've got a comment here. Dr. Kelly Clark says, it sounds like ICE has given in to be the Gestapo. That's exactly the point, is that they have been given the blessing by the guy in the Oval. We're not even calling him the guy in charge at this point, but the guy in the Oval saying, yes, do all these things. A federal judge said, wait, not so fast. The judge placed an emergency hold on the proceedings, said that Khalil could not be deported until the proceedings concluded as far as court hearings and things like that. And the first hearing in her courtroom, I believe it's a female judge, I will double check that, is scheduled for later this week. All right, there's a third thing that we really need to talk about as to why this story is important. Khalil, this particular young man, is the first person that we know of that they intentionally went after, knowing he was somewhat high profile, knowing that he was someone who had organized campus protests against what was happening in Gaza. They went after this young man and broke several laws in the process on purpose, because they were banking on something really important, which is that They were assuming, because Middle East politics is so controversial, that nobody would miss him. Nobody would care. Or if they did, it would just draw up this very emotional topic and we'd get so busy fighting each other that we would just allow this to continue. He is the test balloon. And I'm telling you, as Dr. Clark is alluding to now, if we allow this to happen, then any of us, whether or not we are citizens, whether or not we were born here, what our status is, whether or not we committed a crime or allegedly committed a crime, any of us could be picked up without due process. So yes, this is wrong, but it also could impact you or someone that you love. So there's a reason to pay attention to this. Darren Woolfolk grandma says, Trump has too many irons in the fire. He's keeping us scrambling and in chaos. Completely agree with that. I do think there's a lot going on. But the good news is when we have time like this together, when we slow things down just a little bit, when we take one thread and we untangle it, you guys have been really great at effectively organizing and doing something about that one thread at a time. And we're going to talk more about that in just a second. Now, I want to get to some of the updates that have been happening with Khalil, because the updates have been extremely positive. And then I want to talk a little bit about the call to action, because there's still stuff you can do from home. It's actually very, very positive. First, I just want to say hi to Caribbean Girl, Danny Donnell, Professor Liberty, Robin, Nancy G, so many people that are sending gifts and love and likes, and I really appreciate you. Thank you all for joining us on this Political Fixer Live. So much great stuff to cover tonight. Now, let's start with the positive of this story. It's terrible that it happened. At the same time, it's backfiring. That's the great news. It's backfiring. People thought that no one would care about this, or if they did, that we would be arguing with each other and that we just wouldn't care. But yesterday, hundreds and hundreds of people gathered in New York outside of an ICE office to protest this. So if you thought no one was going to notice, this is now being picked up by major news outlets, including ABC News. People are going out and actually interviewing and sharing the story about how this happened, the fact that there were illegal moves by ICE. There's a lot of positive that's happening with the attention that this story is getting. And yes, to your point, there's a lot going on right now. We cannot be perpetually outraged about everything, but it's good to know that when things happen that are so beyond the pale, that people are stopping and saying no. So that's our first silver lining of this story. They also thought that this would continue to drive a wedge between Jewish and Muslim communities. And this is the oldest trick in the book. This was extremely difficult to watch during the campaign season because while the issues are, of course, very important, pitting us against each other for so many reasons, our ethnicity, our gender, our religion, where we are in the country, whether or not we have an accent. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. That's the oldest trick in the book. And yet they were using a very real issue that, for good reason, had a lot of emotion behind it to drive that wedge even further and to fan the flames. It's easy to understand why they would think that taking Mr. Khalil would cause us to devolve into more arguing, more bickering, and turning on each other. But the opposite has happened. Today, Jewish students at Columbia University, I'm going to say that again. This is a Palestinian young man, and Jewish students at Columbia University organized their own demonstration on top of all of the other demonstrations that have been happening across the country, demanding the release of Khalil. There were some beautiful signs, beautiful photos of these students protesting. Now, I just want to put some context around it. Let me tell you a couple of my favorite signs that I saw. Hands off our students and not in our name. That was my favorite one, not in our name. Now, you're talking about students that are still very upset about what's happening, but they're setting that aside for what they consider to be the morally correct thing to do. That's amazing. Hats off to those students. I mean, sincerely. But let's take it one step further. They now know the risks. Not only did Khalil get detained, but 60 universities across the country received a letter from the Department of Education, while it still exists, saying that they were being placed on a warning for the student protests that they were allowing to happen. Now, what that warning means, what they're promising to do, who cares? It's really like, the huff and puff of the big bad wolf at this point. We get it. You want to blow our house down, right? But the fact is, you see so many people that are not willing to stand up, who are in positions of power. And yet these students who have so much to lose, including possibly their own safety and their own identity and their privacy and their security and their ability to study at that university, they went out despite everything and they stood up for a former classmate. That is amazing. That is what we should see. I see that user 933 says, we are stronger together. We need to unite and protect each other. Exactly. And Kelly Fraser is saying this is starting to feel like Kent State. Let's hope not. Okay, so there's a shocking twist to this story. In addition to everything that I just told you, that I had to double check the validity of this. I had to make sure that this was accurate. Okay, we're going to start with the Democratic response. Democrats have called for his release. I was a little bit flummoxed by that, as you can tell. Why? Because I thought they were going to fall for it. I thought they were going to be like, oh, wait, we can't say anything about Gaza or Jewish students or, I thought they would fall for it, but they haven't. In fact, there was a very strongly worded statement by Representative Nadler, a New York congressman. He says he's monitoring the situation. He said, let's be clear. The warrantless arrest of any legal permanent resident, seemingly solely over their speech, is chilling. McCarthyist action in response to the exercise of the First Amendment right to free speech. He goes on to say such action is a frightening violation of immigration law. Yes. And it will not make Jewish students any safer. Also true. Here was my favorite line. If the Trump White House were serious about rooting out anti-Semitism in America, they should start with their own administration. Oh my gosh, folks. Are Democrats waking up? Do you hear that? I mean, it's slow, but it's rumbly. I think they're starting to wake up. Oh my gosh. Okay. There's something else to this. It just gets curiouser and curiouser. I told you we had a good, weird week. Ann Coulter, noted conservative pundit and alleged mistress of evil. She also weighed in. Ann Coulter weighed in and said, there's almost no one that I don't want to deport. Strange, we're just going to keep going. But unless they've committed a crime, isn't this a violation of the First Amendment? I'm sorry. Did you feel that chill come through? Have the gates of hell started to freeze over? Ann Coulter is siding with us on an issue. Okay, things are strange. We're going to go with it. A win is a win. That is how bad this issue is, right? It's like the lion laying down with the lamb. I don't know. Okay, so what can you all do about this? Well, the good news is your homework is kind of fun for this one. First things first, if you want to do something fun, call or email Representative Nadler. Forgive me, I actually don't know if it's Nadler or Nadler, but it's N as in Nancy, ADLER. And tell him thank you for standing up for free speech, for standing up for students, for standing up for immigrants. We don't have a lot of positives right now. So let's take a win, which is he's fighting and he came out swinging. And that's what we've been asking them to do. And the statement was not the only thing he's done. They've sent letters. They're involved in, trying to remedy this issue. My understanding is he's involved. Let me contrast that for just a second, because you're like, well, he's an elected representative that represents this area. Of course he's involved. What did New York Mayor Eric Adams have to say about this? This is a quote. What I'm finding surprising is the level of support you're all displaying, but I didn't see that support for me. Oh, just Eric being Eric, everyone. You gotta love it, right? I mean, sure, you all came to bat for the young man who was stolen in front of his pregnant wife, kidnapped to an undisclosed location, and had every one of his First Amendment and immigration rights taken away. But where were you for the possible fraudulent felon when he needed you the most? Are you not ashamed? Anyway, so yeah, Eric Adams is going to Eric Adams, and Ann Coulter is apparently going to keep us on our toes. Weird story, but there's more that you can do. This story is getting some traction. It's really important that we help to control the narrative. And what I mean by that is we don't allow it to spin where they want it to go. We know the tricks, right? They're going to vilify him. They're going to try to paint him as some sort of bad guy. They're going to allude to things that he may have done or almost did or tried to do. They're going to talk about a lot of inflammatory stuff that is still happening, where people are still losing their lives over in the Middle East. It's our job to stop that distraction from happening. What we can all do is create content that shows what the real issues are. Pick which one you like, right? Number one, violation of free speech. We should not be arrested for speech, right? Just because we are protesting our government, even if I disagree with you, you have a right to say it unless you are directly, and I mean directly, threatening harm, right? So take it as a First Amendment issue. The second approach you could take is you could talk about how this is a clear violation of the rule of law. That no matter how you look at this, no matter how inhumane I currently consider actual laws that are on the book against immigrants, this goes past all of that. This is a violation of due process. And even if this young man had committed crimes, which again, there is no evidence to suggest that he did anything except exercise his free speech. But even if he had committed crimes, he is still entitled to due process. Hey, Divine AF girl, good to see you. And the third approach that you could take is just how poorly we are allowing people to treat others, to try to divide us, to try to scare us, to try to silence us. That this is more about this young man. This is about more than student protests. This is about our right as Americans to exist freely, safely, and securely without worrying that, yes, the people in the brown shirts or the black ice vests, whatever you want to call it, are going to come knocking at our literal door in our home. Right? So there's so many ways that you could look at it. Just make sure when you create the content that you stay away from certain inflammatory words that will get things flagged, or your content might be suppressed. I myself have gotten a little bit inflamed sometimes, and my content gets a little choked on some of these platforms. And the other thing is to make sure you make your point clearly and factually, if at all possible. We need to try to be passionate, but the adults in the room. And we need to make sure that we do not allow people to fall for this pitting against each other. Just because we are sticking up for the supports of Palestinians as Palestinian student does not mean that we don't love and care for our Jewish brothers and sisters. Quite the opposite. We realize this is a slippery slope, that unless we protect everyone, any of us could be next. That if something is done that is an atrocity in someone's name, it makes them less safe, not more safe. So because we love both our Jewish and Muslim brothers and sisters and our right to free speech, we're going to stay on this one. All right, you guys are rocking and rolling tonight. We've got almost, over 22,000 likes. All right, I'm going to look and see here. Well, I see a hi from Sherry. Sherry, it's so good to see you. Glad you made it. Dr. Clark has another pearl of wisdom here. See the full humanity, all identities. Don't let them divide us. Absolutely. I see that people are sending roses and gifts. We so appreciate you. Mary Ice says they're more like bounty hunters than law enforcement. True, Mary, but here's the thing. Bounty hunters still have to have a warrant. So yeah. So Karen Shaw, 4848, says, "Hi, I'm a federal worker. I feel a shutdown is still necessary. Hope the Dems don't blink." All right, before we go to our next topic, let's talk about what's going on with the pending shutdown so you can understand what's happening, the truth from the fiction, and then talk a little bit about what we think the real lay of the land is here. Okay, today, if you're watching this live, the Republican House was able to pass what they call a continuing resolution, saying that basically, here is the budget that we want to have going forward for the next year to keep the doors of our federal government open. Thank you to Danny and Wendy. So that passed the House. It only needed a simple majority. We kind of knew it was going to pass. There was some bluster. There's one particular Republican congressman that he always pretends like he doesn't know how he's going to vote and that he's undecided so that he gets all of this airtime. And wouldn't you know it, 100% of the time sides with MAGA. But anyway, they keep falling for it, so you got to love the press. So we knew that this was going to pass the House. It still has to go through the Senate. And the thing is that you need more votes, a wider majority in the Senate for it to pass. So Democrats could actually stop this particular budget from going through. Now, why would they want to do that? And why would they not want to do that? Let's talk about that for just a second. One of the reasons that they would want to stop the budget is because it contains some language in there. Forget all the cuts to things like, feeding needy children and all of that. That goes without saying, right? Of course that stuff was in there. But that is just like the element of the budget is almost secondary because there were some things that we call a poison pill that were contained in this document. And one of them is that the White House, the executive branch, which I'm assuming means Elon as well, could line item veto anything or reallocate something essentially on a whim at any time. Now, let me ask you something. No matter what you were signing a contract for, would you ever sign a document that says, these are the terms, unless I arbitrarily would like to change anything at any time without your permission? Of course not. So why agree to a budget as long as that's in there? So that's the top line thing, is that this thing is garbage. You could say that we're going to feed 1,000 puppies a day and rescue 1 million kittens, but they could just lie and change all of that stuff with that particular phrase that's in there. So what's in the budget? That's why I say it's almost secondary. The second reason they might want to oppose this is, DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, so ironically named, the one that's slicing and dicing at our tax treasury, our Social Security, our veterans benefits, Department of Education, EPA, FAA, the environmental protection organizations, you name it, DOGE is in there with apparently a literal chainsaw. So they're going in and arbitrarily accessing sensitive data, canceling contracts, clawing back funds, canceling credit cards of agents and licensed government workers who are out in the field right now trying to do their jobs, reversing research grants. I mean, just really, really bad stuff, right? The Democrats have a way to say, listen, this is illegal. We demand oversight. We demand accountability. You cannot claw back funding we've already approved. Some pretty basic legal demands. So why wouldn't they do it? Well, the idea is if the budget isn't passed in time, then the government will shut down. And Democrats are worried that they will be blamed for the shutdown. To be clear, I don't know what they are worried about specifically. There's no impending election that's coming up that is sizable enough to allow DOGE to just keep going the way that they are, in my opinion. We're not in a midterm year. Most of the elections are not happening until so many months away, and we have to survive that long. Okay, so I think that this risk is minimal compared to what the reward might be. The other thing is, if the government shuts down, which I do not say lightly, then yes, people like the woman that just mentioned that they're a federal worker, they might lose their jobs. They might have instability of pay. But even the federal workers are saying, listen, if it leads to longer term stability, if it leads to more of the country paying attention to what's happening right now, we'll take it. Right? Annette Bakersfree says, let it shut down. Listen, I don't take this lightly either. But right now, arguably, the government isn't functioning the way it should anyway, right? And I think it was Guava that just said, yeah, Guava Girl just said, WTF, who cares? If they're doing the right thing, take the blame. Agreed. So if that's how you feel, then this is a friendly set of calls you can make as well. This has passed the House. So you can call Democratic senators and nicely, strongly, passionately encourage them to go for the shutdown if they do not stop Doge. A simpler way to put it. And it doesn't have to be your Democratic senator. I got news for you. Just call everybody. Just call all the Democratic senators that you would like, right? And I would call a few of the Republicans as well, like Lisa Murkowski or whatever, the ones that are getting a little bit annoyed at Elon. It may or may not work, but why not bother that woman? Anyway, at this point, I don't want Republicans to be off the hook, but we kind of know how they're going to vote. So if you're one for conserving energy, call Democratic senators and say, listen, we need Doge to be stopped, and you are our last line of defense. We know this is difficult, but we support you. America is behind you if you make the tough decision and need to shut things down in order to protect us. I'm going to say that again. Use whatever words you would like. But if it were me, it would be some variation of, you need to help protect us from Doge. You can even insert something positive after that. I'm particularly concerned because Social Security, my husband's a veteran, the Department of Education. Pick one and say what you personally are upset about. That makes a stronger case. So I support you, right? So please protect us from Doge. Here's my personal reason why. So I support you if you need to make the difficult decision of shutting down the government, if it means protecting us in the long run. I support you if you do this, right? Okay, so that is one option of kind of a script that you could use, right? So to speak. Because a lot of people are like, I don't know what to say. I don't know where to start. Can I call them if they're not our senator? Yes, because they're voting on things that impact all of us. I do think that calling your own congressional representative, your own senator, yeah, sure, start that way. But let's be very clear. These people are impacted by news, by attention, by public opinion, and they do not limit their emails asking for fundraising to just those of us in their district, do they? So they can absolutely hear from us even if they're not our senators or our elected representatives. And if they are up for election in 2026, make sure you catch them at their campaign office as well. Question from TikTok and Snoopy's mom. The hypocrisy of the administration when Trump pardoned 1,500 protesters with many violent. So Snoopy's mom is talking about the January 6th insurrection. Yes, hypocrisy, irony. They're dead and buried. It's gone. It's done. It's toast. They do not care. They also are like, back the blue, except for when, it doesn't suit our needs, right? Gen X girl, love it. What about Hakeem Jeffries going after Dems that stood up? What about Ro Khanna's bill? Okay, so there's a lot of questions about, like, are they doing enough? Are Democrats doing enough? There was also some censure votes that I think 7 Democrats voted along with Republicans to censure Representative Al Green, who stood up during the State of the Union address in protest and yelled back at Trump. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I do think that the Democratic Party machine is very slow to move. I think they're getting a ton of bad advice, like just a ton of bad advice. Gavin Newsom is clearly trying to stake up a presidential run. He's like getting his teeth re-whitened and all this other stuff, and I used to like Gavin Newsom. I mean, I didn't love him. I thought he was kind of a phony, like knockoff, Disney prince, but like I got that it's California or whatever. No offense to my California family friends out there, but I'm like, oh, that just must be something that they do in Beverly Hills, right? But then when he's starting to decide to run, he's not just going to the middle. He just had some sort of podcast or whatever, and who was one of his first guests? Right wing, really insulting, really racist, really misogynist, Charlie Kirk. Because let's platform a racist. Why not? Right? So some of them are getting really bad advice. Some of them are operating out of fear. But there's some hope here, which is that when you all are encouraging them and you're nudging them, very diligently, though politely, I'm sure, it is working. They are getting more responsive. They're starting to hear the claps and the praise when they actually come out and do something. I think they're going to move. I don't know if they're going to move fast enough. I think there's work to be done. We're going to talk more about that work and what you specifically can do. Skyscraper says, we got to go left, and stay there. Listen, you don't have to tell me, but I know that I am farther left than most people. I understand that. But I also got to say that when you just stop for a second and say, hey, I think that if you commit crimes, you should not be a president. If you're a predator of women, you should not be in charge of anything that involves women or other human beings. If you are sick, you should get the ability to get health care without receiving bankruptcy. If you're a woman, you shouldn't be threatened, patronized, demeaned, and have lack of access to all of your healthcare options. If you're someone that's a person of color, you shouldn't be treated like garbage all the time. If you're a black person, you shouldn't be vilified every single time something goes wrong. I mean, these are basic things. I don't really consider them leftist, I gotta say, but whatever. Like, I think that, to your point, now is not the time to get cute, and you cannot go middle ground with someone who is a tyrant. You cannot. There is no middle ground to tyranny. There is no middle ground with a tyrant. They want to crush you. They want to control you. They want to see you break. The only win for them is if you lose. And let me say something. I want to take just a personal point of privilege here for just 1 minute. We're going to talk more about this later. It's very weird to me how certain messages just keep coming up in my life all at once. But some of you might not know that years ago, I had a stalker. Let's be clear. I still have a stalker. I just don't hear from him as often because legal protections have finally been put into place, right? But I have a guy who, I'm going to say, to stay out of court again, allegedly stalked me for years, violently, tormented me, was inside my house. Okay, this is all very, very true. He is, in my opinion, a psychopathic narcissist. And I have spent a lot of time and a lot of therapy and a lot of research, because you guys know me by now, I'm super nerdy. I research everything, right? Trying to figure out what makes him tick. And guess what? He has the exact personality profile of the person currently occupying the Oval. I know how that guy thinks, because I've been dealing with a version of that guy in my life for years. And there's only one thing they want, and it's to break you. It is the only thing they want. They want us to be afraid. They want us to not stand up. So what we're doing might be imperfect. Some of you I know are like, is it enough? You know, there's so much going on. Am I picking the right thing to spend my time on? As long as you are taking a deep breath every day, taking care of yourself, taking care of your friends and your family as best as you can, and then putting one foot in front of the other and raising holy hell with whatever energy you have left, whether it's an email or social posts or phone calls that we know are likely going to go to voicemail, or trying to organize, or scraping together some extra time to go to a community event you always meant to get involved in. Whatever it is, including taking some of your other friends out for cocktails or lunch or a cup of coffee to support them who are out there, right? Whatever it is, it's something, and you're not bending the knee. And let me tell you, I've been dealing with that dude for so long, and the thing that gets him the most is when I'm happy, when he sees me doing something, when he tries something and it just doesn't work. You want to get to him? Keep standing up to him. It is working. And that is part of our next topic, actually, right? All right, you guys are rocking and rolling. We are at 36,000 likes, and Lulu has just sent us the perfect segue. Lulu says, we need to boycott all companies that put money in his pocket for a month or longer. Okay, Lulu, thanks for teeing us up. Good news, guys. You know that whole mockery about, oh, boycotts never work and what you're doing doesn't make a difference and no one cares what you guys think. All of the mockery. Ooh, they were wrong. I have data. I have some really fun data. You guys are crushing it. Let me tell you some fun stories about the effectiveness of what you're doing. And then after that, we're going to take more of your questions, more likes and shout outs. And we're also going to give you some fun announcements of some other ways you can get involved, including something really special I'm excited to share with you in just a bit. Okay. Let me take a moment. I'm going to sip my cocktail here. we've sprung forward. I've got my spring colors here. For those of you on TikTok that can't see the full set, our little pop figure guest this evening is Dobby. Dobby, I understand the problematic issues with the author. Not condoning that at all. Still love the story. And Dobby is a mischievous elf. And it turns out that all of you have been pretty mischievous elves yourself. What am I talking about? All right, let's talk about Target, shall we? Target stores used to be such a guilty pleasure for me. I don't know how much money I spent there when Maddie was a baby and I was decorating her nursery and baby Winnie the Pooh stuff, but it was an unhealthy amount of money. Used to be so fun. That joy is gone now. Why? All right, Target announced they would be rolling back their diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Now, this is a big deal. I know a lot of companies did some things we don't love, but Target in particular, this was a blow to people who have been following this issue. Let me give you a few reasons why, in case you were not familiar with some of the awesome stuff that used to be going on behind the scenes. Number one, they were one of the only stores and one of the first sets of chain stores that reliably stocked Pride merchandise. Right there in the front, not tucked away in a dusty bin where you had to shamedly ask for it to get to it, right there, just almost as if LGBTQ people are normal humans who need to wear clothing. It was beautiful while it lasted. The other thing that they used to do is they intentionally made sure that they both staffed their store with diverse employees. I'm not just talking about ethnicity, though that is important. It is extremely important that your employees, especially in management, represent your community and that it's diverse, but also differently abled people were also widely represented at Target stores. They also had products and suppliers representing a broad variety of people, particularly community of color and particularly Black people. There were Black beauty products, again, some of the only national brands doing that. In fact, for those of you that might not know, I grew up in a predominantly Black community, and some of my friends from high school, we would talk about how Target had ornaments, Christmas ornaments that focused on Black families, not just white families, wrapping paper that had Black Santa on it, not just white Santa. Those things matter to families. They had Latino Santas and Latino families around holiday. They had different packaging for different Jewish holidays, a lot of representation, and it seemed to be guided in a pretty healthy way, not like Juneteenth ice cream flavor that was really offensive, but actually good stuff. And part of this was because they consciously hired someone to lead this DEI initiative that cared, that wanted to do it right. And why did they do that? Because the Target CEO personally promised George Floyd's family that they would commit to this after he was murdered. Oh yeah, it was that deep, and they went that sideways when they turned around and ran from every moral high ground that they had spent years building up. Just a few short years, and they were turning a corner and attracting a ton of revenue from different people. So activists organized a boycott. We mentioned this on a show. You might have been familiar with it on social media, which was on February 28th. They did an economic blackout supporting companies that had backtracked on DEI. Amazon, Target were amongst those that were targeted. No pun intended. But in addition to that, what some people may not be familiar with that are not in certain communities is that there's a second boycott specifically aimed at Target, because the betrayal ran deep with this one, as I just explained to you. And it was designed to coincide with the Christian holiday of Lent, and it was called a corporate fast. So it has started to coincide with Lent. It would then break theoretically at Easter, and it's supposed to last for 40 days. One of the boycott's lead organizers is Reverend Jamal Bryant. He is a senior pastor at New Birth Missionary Baptist Church just outside of Atlanta. Now, if someone had told me this weeks ago, because I did not see this headline at first, if you had told me that Black churches were organized, I could have told you then this was going to be effective, just to let you know. I mean, I've done a lot of politics. I've worked a lot of campaigns, particularly in the South, and holy moly, there is no group, period, that organizes the way the Black church organizes. So they are behind this. Okay. In addition to that, they partnered with the U.S. Black Chambers, and already 130,000 people personally signed a commitment saying they would not purchase from Target for those 40 days. Now, Is it working? The answer is yes. According to Business Insider, shares at Target are down 30% since last year. And the tariffs are expected to drive them down even further because they're not immune to everything that's happening with this economy, right? So they're already down 30%, which is much, much farther than their competitors. And just since January, when they announced the reversal of their diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, they have lost 15.7 billion, billion with a B, billion as in black, billion as in feel it, $15.7 billion in revenue just since January in value. What you guys are doing is working. It is effective. Now, I'm not saying that like we could shut everything down. I'm not saying that all boycotts are always the answer, all of the asterisks, whatever. But the bottom line is they're trying to convince us that we don't have power here. And they definitely try to convince us that we don't have power of the purse. Clearly, they're mistaken. And they have played around with things at their own peril. So what you all are doing, not just with Target, but in general, is causing people to see things, to see you. I mean, just really well done. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a second, including some other good news. Okay. Comment from TikTok, DJC Wisdom, good to see you. So glad you're here tonight. Doge are evil, careless, and dangerous. Cosign. There are other ways to cut down spending. Great segue. We're going to talk about that in just a second. I want to say thank you for crossing 52,000 likes and these beautiful lights that Divine AF Girl is sharing. I love that CJ Murphy talking about our comments about are we left or not left. It's basic human decency. If that's leftist, count me very leftist. Amen, CJ. Mighty Man on TikTok said boycott Target, Walmart, and Amazon for this week. I have seen that. If you're able to do that, I definitely support it. And yeah, like, so Carol C was accidentally, someone hit block on accident on my team. So they're working to recover you. Carol C, if you can see this, we're trying to get you back here. That was a mistake. My team just let me know. All right. Okay. So more good news. Speaking of Doge and my favorite punching bag, Tesla. Let's talk about Tesla, shall we? Okay. You guys have just really outdone yourselves with this one. So Tesla, you know, we know about Tesla. I don't know if you've been following, but there have been organized protests to what Doge has been doing. We're going to talk about that in just a second. We're going to really go into this in just a bit with Doge. But to protest that and to hit them where it hurts, so to speak, hundreds. My last count, I saw over 350 protests have been organized at Tesla dealerships. I want to say on the public property surrounding Tesla dealerships, so perfectly legal across the country. And the question is it working? So let's talk about this. How do we judge if something like that is working? There's a few metrics. Number one, is it generating awareness and attention? Absolutely. I'm seeing it all over social. I'm seeing it in a ton of mainstream media outlets now. They're starting to talk about it. You know, the media attention for this, that's point one, but really important. I wouldn't even call it point two. I would call it like sub point one, like 1B is, did the protest tie itself successfully to the message you were trying to convey? In other words, if we're all sitting outside and people are protesting, like, what are you protesting? I don't know. Then you can get a lot of attention, but it doesn't help, right? But almost every article, every newscast, every mention of the protests outside of a Tesla dealership then goes on to talk about Doge, to talk about why people are saying what they're saying, why are they upset. It is raising attention on the core issue as well. So well done to the organizers of those protests. The other thing is it impacting the business or the brand? Well, this is fun. Tesla's stock is suffering its deepest drop since 2020. And for those of you who have memory hold this would be when we were actually quarantined and couldn't drive anywhere, right? So that's a pretty steep decline. How steep? The company has now lost more than half of its value since December. A slump that has wiped out $800 billion in their market value. Okay. First of all, who who is valuing Tesla at $1.6 trillion? You guys have lost your minds, but whatever. This is why I do not pretend to understand stocks and whatever. But all of that aside, the fact is, through the protests, the bad reputation that these cars have, and in my humble opinion, the fact that they're now dorky cars that are associated with something largely negative. I get the economic and environmental appeal originally in the before times, don't get me wrong, but now, come on. So, $800 billion, 80% of $1 trillion. That's right, you guys did that. Also, their sales have plummeted in Europe. Anyone want to guess why Europeans are super sensitive about Elon Musk's behavior lately? 45%. 45%. Now, this is really important because while the Tesla sales are down 45%, the electric vehicle sales are up 27%. So it's not, oh, well, everyone's hurting over there. No, no, no. His competitors are actually doing pretty awesome. So yeah, what does this mean for Elon Musk? It is estimated that his net worth has gone down in just this week, $5 billion. All right, sounds like a lot of money. I love the little heart. Sounds like a lot of money, but he's a bazillionaire. Doesn't matter. Oh yeah, because that would be the fourth thing, right? Raise awareness of the event, raise awareness of the issue, hurt the company economically, but that sweet, sweet goal of hurting him in his ego. Oh yeah, you guys did that as well. Let me tell you why. Okay. He has been complaining and whining about this nonstop. And then he ran to Daddy. He ran to 47 and said, they're hurting my feelings, say something, do something to them. And he did. He had a whole Tesla commercial outside the White House. He said, you know what? I'm going to buy one myself. Good luck getting paid for that, by the way. I'm going to buy one myself. He goes on to say, 47 says, in front of the White House, a literal commercial for this car where he is reading an ad copy script. He says, now I can't drive, but I'm buying one anyway. I thought they were self-driving. Can he not afford the self-driving feature? I'm just inquiring minds want to know. And then it gets better. Elon Musk's mommy starts tweeting, not just once, not just one, like dozens of tweets. She starts tweeting all of this, like, you guys are mean, stop doing this to my son. She broke out the R word that I am not going to say here. Like, what year is this that you are calling people that, lady? And she called people that protested Tesla the R word. I mean, they are big mad. So nice job with that one. Okay, now there is a downside to this. It's slight, but it's important, right? I love CJ Murphy's comment. It's hurting so bad that Trump had to do a ShamWow infomercial for him. Yes, that's right. It was ShamWow. Anyway, swastikars. Okay, so here's the only negative thing that I would say is I was reading from some people on Blue Sky. Yes, I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on as Shauna Virtue, and I'm also on as Political Fixer. Thanks to all of you on TikTok that were asking me to come join over. I love it. It's so much friendlier. I've stopped posting to X, except for every once in a while I just go on there to just dunk on Elon, right? I don't have Kendrick's skills, but I have his spirit. So I'm just gonna, like, every once in a while I'll log in and just insult him in some way and then log off. So as far as what the negative is, on Blue Sky, I was reading from some people who have been attending some of these protests at the Tesla dealerships. And what they are saying is that they're garnering attention. People are stopping. They're either pulling over and walking up, or they're walking by, and they're asking about the protest, which is great. Here's what's not great. What's not great is many of them are still asking, hold on to your hats, what is Doge and why are you upset about them? Oh, that's not good. Okay, so this is really important. We think that everyone knows what we're talking about. We think that finally the media, including the legacy media, is starting to cover this. So surely everyone knows what's going on. But that's not true. It's absolutely not true. Most people don't. Most. Not some, most. Think about it. Who has time and still subscribes to a newspaper right now? A lot of people do not. If you do, how much of it do you actually read? And if it's politics, how much do you even bother to fill your head with? Because there's a distrust there on both sides. How much news do people watch? Look at the ratings. Very little, especially now that the election is over, right? So we've got to find a different way to reach them and explain it to them. Okay, I've spent a lot of time working on this because, yes, hippie mom millennial, I was just as surprised as you were. Nikki said, my sister had no idea until a few days ago, and I post about it often. Crazy. Absolutely. Now, there's another thing, Nikki, that you're bringing up that I think is such a good point, which is that when you're posting on social media, we actually don't know what's getting throttled and hidden either, right? So we got to be mindful of that. So the big thing is, it doesn't matter whose fault it is that we're in this situation. It's ultimately our responsibility, if we are going to try to advocate for others, to just try harder to reach people. That's how it works. It's not a fair business, but it's a great rewarding business, right? Of being advocates and trying to be superheroes and help other people. So I've given a lot of thought on how we can do this, and we've developed a campaign that is going to include social graphics, commercials, trainings, t-shirts, that kind of thing. We are working feverishly on this. And I got to say, this was after a couple of martinis on Saturday night. Even so, when I woke up the next day, still thought it was a good idea. So that's a good sign. Very excited about this one. If you would like to get involved in this Stop Doge campaign, we are taking volunteers. We want you to spread the word. We want your ideas. We want you to give us feedback on the commercial. We want you to help with getting people to understand. We'll have talking points, scripts, graphics, whatever you need. But here's the thing, just like anything else that we do, we know your time is valuable. So if you go to politicalfixer.com, just fill out the contact form. We do not sell your information. The privacy policy is right there. It's just us. It's just our team. We do not give it away to people to solicit money from you that are running for dog catcher, I promise. Go to politicalfixer.com. Let us know you want to get involved. And if you want, we will compensate you. There are financial incentives, not a thank you, not a gift card, nothing cute. We will send you a check or a Venmo for anything. If you post something and people buy merch, we're sending you money. You get donations to support this cause to help us air the commercial, we're sending you money, because we know that your time is valuable, and because I would rather pay you, some of you have heard me say this before, than pay high-priced consultants that will not do much at all for me at all, and that will annoy me on top of everything. Okay, so just go to politicalfixer.com, or if you don't want to do that, that's fine. If you want to wait and see, next Tuesday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, we'll be doing our normal Political Fixer broadcast, and we will show you what the campaign is, what the tools are. You don't need to sign up to use it. Everything is free. Everything is downloadable. The idea to sign up is so you can have access to other things to volunteer, and so you can get compensated. All right, so you don't have to do anything. Again, everything is 100% free. I can't express to you enough that it's just so inexpensive to treat people the right way. I don't know why more people don't do it. Yes, I do. Okay, that leads me to another thing. So we've got the Stop Doge campaign. We'll unveil the official name. We've got some cool graphics. I'm very excited about this, training, scripts, and it's more than call your congressperson. That is important. I'm not diminishing that. But there are so many other things we can do to educate the public at large. And we actually think this could be kind of fun. It's important, but again, if you find a little levity and joy in a situation, it goes much better for everyone involved, and you're more likely to have people share your content. Super excited. So if you go to politicalfixer.com, then just let us know you want to get involved. Or just join us here next Tuesday, and I'll give you everything you need then. Or you could just look at our social anytime after Tuesday night's broadcast, and you'll be able to go to politicalfixer.com and some other sites that we'll share with you, and you'll have everything that you need. Okay, Marlene said, please offer V-neck t-shirts. Eddie, I'm looking at you, my lovely producer. Add to our notes when we're going through the merch. V-neck t-shirts, courtesy of Marlene. Marlene, send us a contact thing and let Sarah know what your email address is, and we'll send you a promo code for that V-neck t-shirt, okay? All right. TikTok comment, Jenfinity said, had no idea that people don't know what Doge is. You know what? I'm shocked in some ways, but I'm not, because here's the thing. It's a little discouraging when you think about it, that as hard as we're working, as much that's happening, as just devastating as Doge, we think, in our opinion, is for the government and for all of us, as much as all of that is true, the fact that people don't know can feel discouraging. But here's my positive way of looking at it. What if they did know and didn't care? Wouldn't that be way worse, right? So I actually think this is what I like to call a Chryslertunity. We know that with Doge, that when they hear what's happening, they're like, wait, what? There's stages of grief that happen, right? There's shock, there's denial, there's like, they want to have it, verified for themselves. This is normal stuff that happens as they're processing it. And then they land on anger. And then hopefully they land on action. And that's where we want to take them, right? So that's how it should go. So I'm actually kind of encouraged to hear that a lot of people don't know what it is. I would be more discouraged if people knew and they're like, what are you going to do? You're always going to have people that they've taken the Kool-Aid. No matter what happens, they're going to be like, yeah, that's totally fine, right? I mean, that's always going to happen. But that is your far right, deep 20% of people, maybe. I actually think it's around 13 to 15%. I don't think that's most Americans. I think this is an opportunity to get people in the middle to wake up and see that no, both sides are not the same. Both sides can frustrate us. Both sides are flawed, but both sides are not the same. Why? Because one makes mistakes. I don't agree with everything. Sometimes they take no action. They can be really obnoxious, etc., etc., etc. One has been taken over by a clown and a maniacal villain, right? Like, they have just been completely taken over. I'm not saying Republican people are that way. I'm saying the party is that way. So this is an opportunity to reach out to people who are moderates, who have maybe been duped, who didn't really understand what was happening, who really thought, you know what, the government is kind of flawed anyway. Who cares if he shakes things up? Yeah, you say that until your Social Security check stops, right? So I think this is an opportunity to bring people in and really show them what's happening. I think this is a really big one. And all of you, again, the most asked question by far that we get is, what can we do about what's happening with Doge? What can we do with what's happening with Elon Musk? Not claiming to have all the answers, but we will give you as many tools as we possibly can and help you get organized. And everything we give you, we want you to take it. Take it. It's free. Run with it. Reproduce it. Rebrand it. Whatever. That's what we want you to do with it. So I'm excited. Sign up now if you can. Next Tuesday, we'll be giving you the stuff as quickly as we can. And Marlene, we are going to hook you up with that V-neck shirt. Okay, let's keep going on Equal Rights Now. There's been some updates on Equal Rights Now. We're going to do that update and then a special announcement. Super excited. You guys are crushing it tonight. We're already at over 70,000 likes. I love the gifts. We've got DT5678, now a villainous, love that handle. Sunshine, Kim, Mike Campaniel, Heathery Wings, so many people that are sending gifts, and the team and I so appreciate you. It's amazing that so many of you are spending time with us here on this lovely Tuesday evening. If you missed some of the show, or you just want to go back and get some clips or grab something, this will be on YouTube afterwards at Political Fixers. So go there and grab what you want, rewind it, get the stats and the data that you want, no problem. And we are going to make sure that we have everything ready for a great show for next week. But before, we've still got a couple of big things here. First of all, Equal Rights Now. Equal Rights Now, for those of you who have not been joining all of our Political Fixer lives, is our national movement, which so many of you, especially on TikTok, have been so supportive of, where we are working to pass the Equal Rights Amendment and get it into the Constitution finally, to get it certified. We're not going to talk a lot about that now, but I want to tell you what some updates are. There is a strategy for doing this. The 30-second version of the plan is, we believe that we have met the legal requirements for the Equal Rights Amendment to be added. But in order for it to actually happen, we think we need to start creating pressure with politicians and with businesses and in the media now, so that by the time midterms happen, we have so much pressure against them and hopefully the correct people in Congress who are motivated to act, that it can become a reality. Now, I know that sounds like a long time away, especially with so much at stake, but when you think about it, a few months, just over a year, is a small window compared to the over 100-year struggle that women have been going through and our allies to add us to the Constitution. The plan is to get states to reaffirm their support for the Equal Rights Amendment. For those who have not yet ratified, to do so. Georgia has introduced a bill in the Senate, and we have some information on that in just a second. And also, for those in the 1970s, primarily, there was 5 states that said, just kidding, we no longer want women to have rights. So that's fun. And so we essentially need them to now say that they affirm their support for the Equal Rights Amendment. All right? Okay. A lot to discuss here, but there's 2 major developments that have happened on equal rights now. We were inspired by what happened in Georgia. And so many of you who are involved in the Equal Rights Now movement have been emailing and sending comments and direct messages saying, okay, it's great. I signed the petition. What else can I do? Give me something else to do. If you go to equalrightsnow.us, US as in us, as in United States, equalrightsnow.us, then under Take Action, there is a brand new link. It is our State Action Center. I'm very excited about this. You can go to any state, and no, you do not have to just go to your own. You can go to any state and it will tell you what the status is. Have they ratified already? Are they one of the states that tried to rescind? And then it will tell you the action that it recommends that you take for that state. Am I hungry? Steak. Anyway, it gets better. It gets better than steak. I'm Texan. What's better than steak? All right. So it gets better than that. If we have already been in contact with some legislators in Texas. Right now, Texas legislators have a bill on their desk, and they are considering this week whether or not they're going to introduce it in this session. Now, don't get me wrong. We've got some time. There's a lot of work to be done. We want this done by next year, but it would be great to have Texas reaffirm their support for the Equal Rights Amendment. Okay, so what can you do about this? Well, there's a couple of things. Number one, the legislators are busy, and sessions and committee meetings are happening in a number of states right now. Good news, we've taken all of the homework out of the equation. No matter what state it is, we have the bill language right there. They can just take it. You can send it to them. It's right there. This is the bill we want you to introduce. It's a clean bill. And if it depends on the state, the bill is customized for them, whether they've ratified or not. It's all right there. Super easy. You can just share that information. We've got a free downloadable PDF, and then we've got a text version if you need to copy and paste it, right? So we've got all of that right there at equalrightsnow.us. And in text, we've got 2 calls to action for you if you are so inclined. For those of you that have already signed the petition or made a contribution to Equal Rights Now, then you will be getting an email blast tomorrow giving you information and notes and links to this. But those of you on Political Fixer Live are getting the first look at it. You get everything first. Okay, so your 2 calls to action. Number 1, call representatives in Texas. It does not matter if you live there. If you are a woman or someone who supports women, call representatives in Texas and ask them to support the Equal Rights Now bill to reaffirm their support for women being in the Constitution. Okay? So you can do that and send that. And if they're like, what bill? Send it to them. We'll be calling them. We've got team members on the ground there in Texas that are going to be calling them. This is a positive thing we can work on together. All right? If you would like one representative to target in particular, and I mean that in the nicest way, she is the kindest person. She agreed to appear on our Equal Rights Now episode of television. We interviewed her. She is a young up-and-coming freshman legislator. She's amazing. Representative Plessa, Plesa. All right? She has agreed to consider the bill. So if you would like, please call Representative Plessa's office. Thank her for supporting women and encourage her to introduce this bill. This has to be done this week, but it's okay. If we don't get this session, we've got time. So that's action item 1. Call Texas. Let's get Texas going. And then in Georgia, you can call the senators, the state senators, at the state level, right? We're at the state level. Call the Georgia state senators, and you can ask them to pass the equal rights bill that we did not draft. This is a different bill. They introduced it on their own. Ask them to pass it. But in the House, in the Georgia House, you can ask them to pass our bill, right? Let's get them both sides, country and Western, right? So that's your call to action for Georgia. Call the state Senate, and you can ask them to please pass the bill that they have on their desk right now. State House, ask them to pass our bill as a companion bill. Then what happens? That means both bills get passed, or at least one of them get passed. They change a couple of things to make them the same. We win, and Georgia will be a newly ratified state. Georgia has never ratified the Equal Rights Amendment before. So this is a big deal. Okay. So much happening right now. I see that Sarah is getting you guys links. Eddie's popping stuff up on links for those of you on YouTube. We've got one other thing. So, Nini's asking, can someone pin it? We will try. I cannot do it from where I am, Nini, but I will be doing a video on this on TikTok tomorrow. So we'll make sure that you have information about this. We'll be shouting out Georgia. We'll be shouting out Texas and giving people the tools. And I'll definitely pin a comment on that TikTok tomorrow at Political Fixer. So definitely look for that. Okay, so this is something completely different, and we've never done this before, but I have a fun announcement on in April Fool's Day, actually, April 1st. Happens to be the Tuesday. We're going to be spending some time together. We're going to be seeing what happens with these special elections. Were we able to gain any seats with that? We'll be working on some stuff together as a Political Fixer family. So we'll be doing our Political Fixer live, as we normally do most of the time, on Tuesdays at 9, but on this particular one, April 1st, it's a little bit different. Not only are there some special elections in Florida that we're going to be following, but it's also the Tuesday before my birthday. Oh, yay, birthday. Okay, so my birthday is April 3rd, and my the Political Fixer Live that's closest to my birthday is April 1st, April Fool's Day. So what are we going to be doing for this? Okay, so we're going to be doing what we love to do, which is election watching, news and organizing, all the fun stuff we love to do on Political Fixer Live. But we're also going to be releasing the latest copy and the latest edition, the Political Fixer edition of A Fearless Voice. So this is a true novel that I wrote, or a true story that I wrote. I issued it, I think 10 years ago, and we've now written additional chapters because of, everything. This is the true story of how I became the Political Fixer. It talks about so many things, but spoiler alert, she lives. Okay. Oh, Cynthia says you're an Aries. Totally makes sense, Cynthia. Yes, of course I'm an Aries. You know how hard-headed I am? Okay. A fearless voice. But here's something fun. We love to do things for our Political Fixer family, especially on Political Fixer Live. If you go to politicalfixer.com and you tell me that you want one, then the first 50 of you that say that you want a free electronic copy are going to get an advanced electronic copy of A Fearless Voice. And if you decide you like it and you want to leave a review, we'll feature you on the Fearless Voice website when it comes out on April 1st. All right. So we will send you advanced copies for free electronically. Just let us know. Send us a quick message on politicalfixer.com. That's politicalfixer.com. And the first 50 of you that reach out and say you want a free advanced copy of it, we will send it to you. All right. Jill says, yay, that's on her birthday. That's amazing. Miss MZ says, are we able to buy your book? You will be able to after April 1st. On April 1st show, we will allow you to buy it. Yes, it will also be sold on Amazon, but we will sell it independently. They are a publisher. We did not know at the time when this happened, but we will also make sure that you can buy it independently, not on Amazon, and that you can buy signed copies. But if you want it for free and you want the advanced copy, we would love for you to have it. Why? Couple of reasons. Number one, I'd love if some of you can read it before April 1st, or at least part of it, so you can jump into the conversation that we're going to have about it. The other thing is, if you have things to say and you genuinely like it, we'd love for you to tell your friends. If not, then forget everything that I said, but hopefully you will like it. I am very excited to bring this to you. It's a very personal story. There's some new chapters. We had an old edition that was out there and it did very well. It was a top 25 book in its category, which is political advocacy. No surprises there. But now it has new chapters and it talks about what we're going through now. So I see people saying they want one. MEZ, Anna Christina Advocacy. Just give us your email address. Okay, so TikTok gets weird with email addresses. That's why we make you go to the website. Sorry about that. So just go to politicalfixer.com. Give us your email address. If you want to let us know your handle too, then we'll try to message you with everything, but we'll just send it to your email. But that's why we make you take the extra steps. So no matter where you are in the country or the world, you can go to politicalfixer.com. Just give us your email address, let us know that you want one, and we'll send it to you. But sorry, you can try to share your email address, but that might be like a security issue if it does come through. So that's why we ask you to go to the other place. Cynthia says she already messaged. I can't wait for you guys to read this. I can't wait to hear what your thoughts are. I will tell you, do not start this thing before you go to bed. This is a don't go into the barn type of situation. These things are true. They happen to me, and some of them, you have to laugh to keep from crying. But it is what made me who I am. And I want to thank, my husband and Sarah and Eddie. They are all part of why we're able to do this work, and they are familiar with this story, and yet they talk to me anyway in public. So there's that. So super excited about this. Okay, let's do a rundown. Man, 87,000 likes. Let's talk about what we covered just really quickly, because this was a big show, and I think they're just going to keep getting bigger as we've got more responsibility on our shoulders to save the world. Our top story was about Mahmoud Khalil, the Palestinian green card holder, former student of Columbia University, who was, in our opinion, unlawfully detained / arguably kidnapped. And we are asking you to do a few things. Look into this story, get comfortable with it, learn the facts around it if you are willing and able to do so. We're asking you to please call Representative Nadler, Nadler, or Nadler. I apologize, I don't know. I hate mispronouncing people's names, as you guys know. And thank him. This is a positive. Thank him for standing up for this young man and standing up for free speech. The second thing that we would love for you to do is share this story on your own. Talk about it from whatever perspective moves you the most. Just make sure that you don't fall for the trap of fighting with each other, dividing our communities, or talking about whether or not this person deserves to have the law upheld and be treated like a human being, right? Talk about it from the issue of free speech. Talk about it from the issue of how we should treat immigrants with dignity. Talk about it from the fair and due process of our law and our Constitution, whatever moves you. But that's how you can make a difference in that story, and it is making a difference. We also talked about how you're already making a difference. You are already moving the needle in a downward direction for Target stores and many others. You're supporting other brands like Costco that are committing and redoubling down. Dick's Sporting Goods is another one, by the way, run by women, ironically. Dick's Sporting Goods is also doubling down on DEI initiatives, diversity, equity, and inclusion. There are some good guys and good gals in this story, but those that have turned their back on different communities, you have raised awareness and you have impacted their bottom line. Target has taken a deep dive and Tesla is begging for mercy. Love to see it. What can you do? Continue to participate in these boycotts if you feel that you are able and comfortable doing so. I'm going to go one step further and say something that I didn't mention before, which is if another organization is leading something, try to make sure you center them, particularly if they are an organization from one of the communities that's deeply impacted, like the Black Chamber of Commerce. So make sure you center them and accentuate their articles and statements whenever you can. That's another great way to do a positive thing to help people. We talked about what's happening with Doge and how, unfortunately, a lot of people have no idea. So guess what? That's our new homework. We're going to work on that. If you can, go to politicalfixer.com and sign up, because next Tuesday, man, we are kicking it into a new gear. We're going to get you some new tools, but the good news is we have some really fun ways that you can get involved, some stuff you can share and take away. On Equal Rights Now, the movement to finally get women into the United States Constitution as equal citizens. I know, crazy talk. You can go to equalrightsnow.us. That's equalrightsnow.us. You can sign the petition to get involved, but you can go one step further now, which is you can go to our state action center and actually ask legislators to either reaffirm their support or take now to ratify this amendment. Why does that work? Because we're building up public pressure, media awareness, and political pressure in the hopes that by this time next year, we are helping to select candidates partially based on if they believe that we are equal citizens in this nation and deserve for that to be enshrined in our Constitution, right? Lots of fun stuff. And then on a personal note, so next Tuesday at 9, the live is going to be primarily about DOGE and that action, though we're going to have some more equal rights updates. That's super fun. You're going to call about Georgia and Texas if you can, and them introducing the bills. Representative Plessa has been a huge supporter, so give her a shout out and a positive thanks if you can. You can tell her, I was listening to Shauna, our political fixer. She knows who we are. She's been great. Her office is so nice. Isn't it going to be nice to talk to someone who's nice, who has an elected seat of power? And then you're going to mark your calendars for one particular live, which is April 1st, April Fool's Day. We're going to be covering some of the special elections, and we're also going to be going over the new edition of A Fearless Voice, the true story of how I became the political fixer and you all got stuck with me. So if you would like a free electronic copy, all you got to do is go to politicalfixer.com and ask for one. It's that easy. Just give us your email address and we'll make sure you get it. We would take them here, but technology impediments. All right. Kelly Frazier also wanted to mention that ResistBot is an app similar to Five Calls. It will email your representatives with specific concerns. Great point, Kelly. It's called ResistBot. So wanted to make sure you guys saw that. And listen, you guys have been amazing. This has been fantastic. Thank you to our team that kept everything moving today on a pretty action-packed show. I want to thank Eddie and Sarah and Jay Robot. I want to thank all of you, particularly our Political Fixer family on TikTok that joins us and is just so active and supportive. We hit over 93,000 likes. That is amazing. I just cannot believe how great you guys are, especially on a Tuesday night when we're all exhausted after daylight savings time. Did anyone else feel that this week? Because I certainly did. Okay. I want to thank you all for joining us. It's been a bumpy week because we've had a lot to do. We're missing out on sleep, but we're definitely going to be there for each other. The big theme that I hope that you're picking up on right now is that raising our voice is not only important. It's not only really important to stick up for each other and stand up for what's right, but it's also working. I hope that you know that because so many people are trying to convince us otherwise. And when you're reading something and you're saying, man, this is so unfair, or this is so mean, or this is so sad, am I the only one that feels like that? No, absolutely not. Thousands and thousands, I would argue millions of people are already feeling what you feel. Sometimes you just don't know what to do, where to start. And we get that. So the first thing is taking care of yourself is first and foremost, including your mental and emotional health. But anything you do, it matters and it's already working. But the other thing is, if you don't know where to start, if you don't know what to do, we don't have all the answers, but let's not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. We're going to get you as much as we can, scripts, tools, graphics, whatever we can. Any ideas that you have, we want to hear them. Any skills that you have. We have been spending so much time trying to make this as accessible as possible. And all of these ideas are not possible without you. Some of them came from you. And then also the lovely encouragement you all give us, like Angela, just giving us those lovely gifts. All right. Thank you, Seven. I appreciate you as well. All right. I want you to answer one question for me before I let you go. How do you feel right now? Do you feel like we can do this? Just for a little bit longer together, just taking it a day at a time, One awful announcement at a time, one tariff, yes, we're having it, no, we're not, we might have electricity, where did the eggs go? Just one at a time. We're just taking it one at a time, right? Marlene, you're amazing. We're getting you those V-necks, babe. We can do it, Haley. Haley's mom, I think it was. Yeah, Haley's mom. You're right. The impossible is not so impossible. And listen, when you look at history, and trust me, I am learning. I am not a natural student of history. If it didn't happen in Texas, a lot of times I got to do some extra learning. But if you look at history, the big moments, the big just bolts of progress, they happen in times like this. They happen in times like this. So when you get low, I don't want you to think about everything that's going around that's wrong. I want you to think of everything huge that can go right, because this, man, they have set the stage, right? Like you can hear the soundtrack playing, can't you? Right? This is the time. We just need to hang in there. There's going to be ups and there's going to be downs, but we got this, right? Vanetta Kelly, I'm in Houston. Oh, hey, Texas. We can do it. Erica, so glad you joined us. So many great positive things. We've got a busy week ahead, but I hope to see all of you next Tuesday at 9 o'clock. If you've got friends and you want to share this with them, go to our YouTube at Political Fixer. You can share this at any time. It'll be ready shortly. I want you all, Cynthia's asking, where do we find the merch? You'll get that link next week, Cynthia. Next week. We're teasing the merch now. You'll get the link to the merch next week. I'm very excited. I've seen some of it. It's really going to be fun. And if you guys have ideas for merch, I mean, listen, there's going to be so many fun ways that you can weigh in. We've done so much of the boring stuff that I hate doing. I'm a nerd, but this tech has been killing me. I've been dying to share this with you all. So we've gotten that stuff done. My team has been amazing and supportive and patient and tireless and constantly working to make it great. So we're excited to bring it to all of you. And I can't wait to share my book with so many of you. We'll start sending those out tomorrow. 100,000 likes. That seems like a great way to end on a Tuesday night. For those of you that I have not yet had a chance to connect to, follow me at Political Fixer. I'm Shauna Presley Vircher, and on behalf of myself and my Political Fixer family that has connected to me on so many ways online, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Please stay safe, stay loud, cause Texas-sized trouble, and I will see you all soon. Have a good night.